Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bante, once again for that talk. Now, brothers and sisters, Bante is actually going to be joining us for the Q&A session soon. To those participants on Zoom, if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and turn on your video to ask the question, unless you absolutely can't. And to those of you on Facebook, as usual, please write down your questions in the comments and we will help you ask Bante on your behalf. Right now, can I invite everybody to turn on their videos and mics to welcome Bante with our palms together? Bante, there is a few questions from Facebook because some people are joining us from Facebook. So for the first one, maybe I can ask on their behalf. Among the English translations of the Pali canon, which translator would Āyasmā suggest which is deemed the most accurate or relatively accurate?
I don't want to be egoistic, but I think mine is the best. Anyway, I didn't translate the whole of the Pali canon, but whatever I translate, I try to be faithful to its original meaning. Okay, so I would suggest that you try either Bhikkhu Bodhi or Āyasmā Aggacitta. Okay, these are the, I would say, the two most reliable sources of English translations.
I see. Thank you, Bante. The next question is that there are many Pali translated works. By learning the translated, can we still get the right view without learning the Pali language? And how can we ascertain it? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
As I told you just now, your karma, what to do? You are not a Pali scholar. If you're a layperson, I don't think you have the time or the aptitude to be able to seriously take up Pali studies and study the suttas. So you are at the mercy of your teacher. Can't be helped.
I see. All right. We have another question. Is let's say we want to start studying Pali. Where and how should we start? This is referring to Atanu, which you mentioned just now.
I think a good way to do it is by participating in an online course. Nowadays, there are many online courses on Pali available. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Āyasmā Dr. Dhammapala is conducting a Pali course, isn't he? On online course. Yeah, if he is, then join that. All right. And then after you have gained some knowledge of Pali grammar, then I would suggest that you use DPR, Digital Pali Reader. All right, Digital Pali Reader. There is an online version available. It's done by a Canadian monk, Āyasmā Aggacitta, from the Thai tradition. And it's a pretty good piece of work because it has the whole Tipitaka there, plus the commentaries. And there are many resources there for learning Pali as well. And also, when you put your cursor on a particular word in the Pali text, then it will give you the English translation below. All right, so you can actually check word for word what it means. Now, if you have enough Pali grammatical knowledge, then if you check word by word, then you should be able to piece out the meaning. All right, but first you have to build up your vocabulary and your basic Pali grammar.
Right. Thank you so much for the answer, Bante. Okay. Digital Pali Reader, and I hope that answers your question, brother. The next question is, how do we balance our worldly ambitions without jeopardizing our own worldly desire to achieve success and family commitments with spiritual pursuit as a married layman?
Well, isn't it there in Attanyu, knowing yourself, and Mattanyu, knowing your measure, your limits, how much you want to go, to what extent you can or want to reduce your desires. Lay people in Pali are called kama bhogi, which means those who enjoy pleasures of the senses. That's your job, what to do. You have to look at your situation and how much you can afford to reduce your desires and practice. There is a verse in the Dhammapada which says that the way to worldly gain is one, and the way to Nibbana is another. All right, so the Buddha gave Dhamma talks initially for his monks only, and these Dhamma talks were all oriented towards final liberation in this life, if possible. But later on, when he had a lot of lay disciples, he also gave another set of Dhamma talks for lay disciples, which are not oriented towards liberation, but oriented towards living a wholesome, meritorious life so that you can have good future rebirth. All right, so I think the circumstances now are very, very different from the past. In the past, the lay people are very, very much involved in making a living because everything was so manual. High manual labor was involved. So they were very busy and they wouldn't have time to do much. They could go for Uposatha once a week, observe Uposatha in the monastery for a while, but they would not be able to attend retreats. In fact, there were no such things as retreats or retreat centers during the Buddha's time. There was only the monastery. Usually they would go there on Uposatha days, observe the 8 precepts, listen to Dhamma talk. But nowadays it's different. Nowadays people are so free, especially women are so free, you know, their husbands go out to earn a living, they are staying at home, they have their Indonesian maid or their Filipino maid of taking care of everything. They have even more free time than monks who have to attend to a lot of pastoral duties, chanting, giving Dhamma talk, teaching the Dhamma, making research. We are pretty busy, but women nowadays are relatively very, very free. And so for women, it is a good time for you to practice. When you are at home, when the children are in school, their maid are doing everything else, you can practice. Yeah, in fact, I've been advocating daily life mindfulness for years. No excuse. It's just a matter of whether you want to do it or don't want to do it, and whether you remember or not.
Thank you, Bhante. So
Okay.
know ourselves, know our limit, and just do what we can when we can.
Right.
All right, Bhante, the next question comes also from Facebook. On verbal formations, what is applied thought before sustained thought and breaking out into speech? And how do we manage applied thoughts?
It's called Vitakka Vichara. Vitakka is sometimes translated as initial thought, and then Vichara is translated as discursive thoughts. Okay, what this means is that when a thought first arises, that's the Vitakka. And when you practice introspective mindfulness, you will be able to catch that thought. As I said earlier, you have sati samajanya, mindfulness, and clear awareness. You'll be able to catch that initial thought, and you have a chance to process it and decide whether you want to follow it or to discard it and use it to recycle as the recycled material for the tree of wisdom. All right. So you have to catch the initial thought first, process it, then only you can practice well. If you can't catch the initial thought, that initial thought will unavoidably become discursive thought. You start to lengthen and you get absorbed into it, and it's too late. Yeah, you see those people who get depression. What is their problem? The problem is they get lost in their thoughts of all these depressive thoughts, these obsessive thoughts. They didn't catch the initial thought. Once you catch the initial thought and you trash it, there's no chance for it to continue.
I see. Thank you, Bhante. I think we have a question here from Zoom from Miss Ng Ting Yen. Maybe I could pass the stage to her. Sister Ng, over to you.
Yes.
Good morning, Bhante. Thank you so much for the talk. I would like to ask a question about one part where you say about lay people and honoring our promise to support the renunciant.
Correct.
And to kind of be aware of our karma, that we've kind of promised something. If conditions have changed and we notice the changes as a lay person, how do we judge whether the support we are giving is suitable and wise? And if the conditions kind of ask for it, how do we withdraw in a way whereby our karma and the other person's karma is not jeopardized? Because you say about the danger of kind of not honoring our promise. Can you give some advice regarding that?
Yeah, as I said, it depends on how
Thank you.
that promise was phrased initially, right? If you did it wisely, like I suggested with the 2 caveats there, then there should be no problem anytime, because you said within your means. And your means, as I said earlier, could mean your resources as well as your faith in that person. Right? On the other hand, if you just made a very open invitation without any caveats, then it's a bit difficult to get out of that.
Can we re-update so we put in caveats?
Yeah. You can update and put in caveats. Right. And then whether or not you wish to continue to support that renunciant depends on whether you have faith in that person. If that person's conduct shows you that he's not worthy of your support, then you can always withdraw it, provided you have already got the caveats. All right.
Sadhu Bhante, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Bante. Thank you, Sister Ng, for your question. Bante, we still have questions coming from Facebook. The next question is, what is the purpose that we do chanting?
Oh, okay. I gave you that slide on Vimutta-ayatana Sutta, the basis of liberation. And in there, one of them is reciting the Dhamma. You recite the Dhamma that you had learned by heart. And by doing that, it will help to compose your mind. That's one advantage of it. Chanting helps to compose the mind, especially if you're someone who is fond of chanting. Some people love chanting, some people don't like it. So it depends, as I say, Attanyu, know yourself, what you like. Because the proximate cause for samadhi is happiness. If you're happy with what you're doing, you will get composed. If you're not happy with something you're doing, you're forced to do a particular meditation which doesn't suit you, you won't get samadhi. So choose something which fits you, which you're happy with, and you will automatically become composed. So that is one advantage of chanting, getting composed. But chanting also helps you to recollect the Buddha's teachings, especially if you understand what you chant. Then it helps you to recollect the Buddha's teachings and try to put it into practice. Remember, not only do you learn it by heart and recite it regularly so that you won't forget, you also need to investigate the meaning to see how the Dhamma can be applied in your life.
Thank you, Bante. Thanks for the answer. We hope that answers your question. We have a few more questions from Facebook. Next one is, how can one know that one is actually practicing and walking the middle path? Thank you.
Oh, I've already told you to go and listen to my talk. Not too gullible, not too shrewd. Yeah, I think Babs has already uploaded the video to YouTube, and in the video description, you can see the link there. You can click the link and go listen to it in SoundCloud.
The link is on our YouTube channel. Please feel free to hop on by and subscribe to us. Yes, we have another question from Zoom, Mr. Kui Kian. Maybe I'll pass the floor to him. Brother, over to you.
I think there's a reference to a term called seeing the sign of samadhi. I would like to ask what that means. For example, does that mean getting the sign or the nimitta? Or is it, so with reference to first jhana or upachara samadhi? Or is it being able to look at thoughts from moment to moment after having a composure? Would that also be a sign of samadhi?
Yes, good question. A sign of samadhi is a literal translation from the Pali, Samādhi-nimitta. But the word nimitta used in the Pali canon is not the nimitta that we now understand it to be. And nowadays, we think of a nimitta like a visual image in your mind, correct? Not? When you meditate, you get a nimitta, an image of something. But samadhi nimitta here refers to the cause for samadhi or the meditation subject or object that you are working on. It says he grasps the sign of samadhi well. Now, suggahitang, well grasped is the sign of samadhi, which means to say that he has developed his mind to such an extent that he's able to stay well with the object of meditation, whatever that is, whether it is defocused mindfulness or focused mindfulness. So it's the ability of the mind to stay with the object of your mindfulness that will bring about samadhi. That is called samadhi nimitta.
So it does not necessarily mean a nimitta such as light or something that looks like cotton, the brightness of that.
No.
Or is it just good enough to be able to stay with the breath, for example, mindfulness of breathing, or just being able to be aware of thoughts, feelings, and perception from moment to moment?
Yeah, all of these also can lead to samadhi. Yeah, that's why in Samādhi-bhāvana Sutta, there are 4 ways that are listed there. So any one of these can work. As I said, it's your ability to stay with the object of meditation, whether it's a changing object or whether it's a static object.
So it need not be like seeing of the light to kind of like reaching a certain level, right? It does not have to be that.
No, it doesn't have to be that, but it can also be that. Now, because that is also a samadhi nimitta. That is something that can bring about samadhi. Okay?
Thank you, Bante.
Welcome.
Thank you, Bante, and thank you, brother, for your question. The next one, I think it's a follow-up to the chanting question. Is it necessary for us now, as a starter, to recite the suttas, or just following the Buddhism right school or teacher teaching and practice it, as I have difficulty to recite the sutta word for word?
Like I said, Atan you,
Not-
and understand yourself what you are good at. If you're not good at something, don't force yourself.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Bante. Further on to the question about seeing the light, Bante, you mentioned that the second type of composure is seeing of light. Could you please expand on that?
You want to know more about that? You're going to see my Samatha and Vipassana Sutta Study workshop. It's already explained there. No time to explain it here.
Yep, brother or sister, perhaps maybe you could message us later on Facebook and we can drop you the link for you to know more. Sadhu, it's great to want to learn more Dhamma. The next question comes to us from Facebook. Sukihontu Bante, please elaborate on the 5th base of liberation and how to practice grasping the sign of samadhi. Sadhu.
No, I just explained it just now. Training your mind to stay with your object of meditation, whether it's a changing object or whether it's a static object.
All right, thank you, Bante. The questions are coming in fast, but Bante, you're answering them faster. Could we have attained the first jhana without knowing it?
Yeah, why not? Jhana is just a name. And if you don't know anything about jhana or the jhana factors, you wouldn't know what it's called, but you would have attained the state.
Yes, we hope that you have attained jhana, Mr. Adrian. And if you wish to know more, maybe you could ask us or ask Bante after this. Bante, is it possible to share your understanding on the emptiness mentioned in the, and the question stops there, but emptiness mentioned in the emptiness. I think this person also left the rest of the question empty.
Very appropriate.
Yeah.
Maybe I should also make it appropriate by not saying anything and keeping it empty. Well, actually, I think there are 2 suttas on that in the Majjhima Nikaya, Mahasunyata Sutta, and I think the other one is Chula Sunyata Sutta. One is talking about the emptiness in terms of like what the Mahayana texts say, It is empty of any independent existence. That means to say that everything is dependent on causes and conditions. Nothing is independent. And therefore, it is empty of any independent existence. Right? From the Theravada point of view, instead of talking about conditions, when we say empty, we mean it's empty of a self or anything that is connected to a self. Right? And by self, we mean a permanent, unchanging entity. So In a way, it's similar to the Mahayana view. It's just that in this particular case, the emphasis on conditionality was not mentioned. But anatta itself implies that everything is conditioned, right? There's no permanent, unchanging entity because everything is a product of causes and conditions and changes all the time. All right?
All right, thank you, Bante. We hope that answers your question. If you want to ask further, please send us a message later. From Zoom, we have, I think, Sister Cindy here who wants to ask a question. Sister Cindy, over to you.
Good morning, Bante. Thank you for the talk. Referring to just now Sister Ting Yan's question, my question would be, say there's not really a formal invitation, but more like a informal, so there's no caveats, but there's also no real formal invitation to serve the needs of a renunciant. So, but then it's something that is already like, in a way, somehow part of the responsibility. And now there is this thought of then perhaps not really continuing it in the long run. So yeah, in that sense, and there is a system in place for others to take over. Is that okay on the karma? Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. As long as you don't harbor any resentment or ill will towards that person.
All right. Thank you, Bante.
Karen asks, is there any advice for female lay followers on what stage of the gradual training is a suitable time to ordain or self-assess to be ready?
Well, matan you, atan you, know yourself, know your limits, know your responsibilities and obligations. If you're a layperson and you are married or you are taking care of dependents like your father or your parents or whoever, these are obligations that you have to fulfill. You cannot just walk out and become a nun. That's one form of escapism. That was what one person tried to do many years ago. He was quite a high-ranking, retired CEO of several corporations before, but he had a daughter who was mentally unstable since young, and he had this problem of coping to take care of her, so he was thinking of trying to escape to become a monk to the objection of his wife and his other family members. Yeah, you shouldn't do that. That's just escapism. If you have any difficulties in life due to family commitments, treat that as a coming debt. There is a reason why you are linked, and there is a reason why you have to go through all this. It is a coming debt you have to pay. So look at it this way, have faith in karma and accept. And do it not grudgingly or with resentment, but with karuna and metta, compassion and loving kindness and patience.
Thank you, Bante. Okay, this is a short question. May I know where to find Bante Sutta's translations as mentioned earlier?
I have written quite a number of Sutta study workshops. You can find my translations in there. I have not translated any single sutta independently. Usually my suttas or extracts from the suttas are translated only for workshops.
Thank you, Bante. We'll accept the last two questions. One from Zoom, Ms. Liang.
Pertaining to this question that Ting Yan asked just now, when we are making an offering to a renunciant, or we are making an offer to the lay people, in fact, in our mind, we have an assumption that the person, the other party, would know their boundary in a way that, let's say it is an renunciant, they would know what is within the Vinaya rules that they are observing. So we assume they will not doing something that is over the Vinaya limits or what. And also we assume we are doing this out of kindness, and that person is receiving also out of kindness. So when she is asking for something, she would know what is good for himself or herself and the offerer. So when, let's say, circumstances change and this promise is not fulfilled, why would this offerer be penalized?
Because you made the wrong assumption in the first place. Wrong assumptions lead to unrealistic expectations that will be the cause of suffering.
Okay, let's say the first assumption is wrong, but through the observation, we know that, okay, this is not the right person to associate, or this is not the right action to continue. Then it is a right time and the right decision for us to move on or to retract, you see. So then the karma shouldn't it work differently? Example, at first you promise to a man, and then this man later on he do something wrong, we shouldn't follow him. We know, oh, this is not the right thing to do, then we should then retract. If we cannot get him out from there also, at least we ourselves have to do something right, isn't it?
You see, as I said before, the point is, if you really make an official, a formal invitation, then this will tie you. If you don't make a formal invitation, it's just doing it out of goodwill, you can retract anytime. There's no penalty for that. I mean, karmically speaking.
So if we have made a formal invitation, so we just have to make something in our mind that we will retract this offer. Is it okay? Or we must go in front to that same person to say, sorry, I would like to withdraw my offer.
Actually, there's a Vinaya rule, but not all monks follow Vinaya rules, really. There's a Vinaya rule which says that if an invitation for requisites is made to the Sangha, then it will last only for 4 months, unless it is renewed, unless it is a perpetual invitation. Now, then the sub-commentaries tell us that even though it is a perpetual invitation, and then the bhikkhu asks for something, but the donor does not respond, does not give what he wants, then that bhikkhu should be sensitive enough to know that the faith of this devotee has been lost and should not ask again. Even though it's a perpetual invitation, the bhikkhu from his side should stop asking anything from that person. That is the responsibility of the bhikkhu. But as I said, not all bhikkhus follow the Vinaya. Okay, that's why I said the best thing is to have this caveat when you make that invitation, and you can withdraw anytime. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you, sister. Okay, one last question. We are accepting one last question from Zoom. Sister Lillian, I would like to pass this to you.
Bhante, let's say with regard to Cindy Yin, let's say there was no formal offering, but the bhikkhu asked for help.
Okay.
So how is it we offer or the bhikkhu asks? Yeah, like the bhikkhu says, help me to find a place, for example.
You see, it depends on what you had said to the bhikkhu before. Like I said, if you had already made an open invitation to the bhikkhu, then he can ask you for help. But if you had not made any invitation to the bhikkhu, a bhikkhu is not allowed to ask anything from anybody who has not made an invitation, unless it is a blood relative or unless it is a fellow renunciant.
That means there's no formal or informal invitation, no? In this case.
Yeah, if there's none, then you are freedom to move on.
Secondly, are we responsible to find another group of devotees to take over?
Up to your compassion. Up to your compassion.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. Thank you, Sister Lillian. All right. All right, okay, thank you, Bhante. Maybe we can invite everyone to turn on their mic and turn on their video to say sadhu to Bhante 3 times before.
Sadhu, Bhante.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bhante. Thank you, Bhante.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, 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 Bhante.
Thank you, Bante. On behalf of Babs, as well as all the devotees here and on Facebook, thank you for the Dhamma sharing. And please stay safe, stay healthy, and continue to spread the Dhamma. Thank you, Bante, and we'll see you soon.